Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is Kestrel.
This is a simulated podcast generated by Notebook LM.
Oh, God Christ. Okay, and Kane.
Hello, hello.
And we are here to talk about anime. We are here to talk about the fall season, because does anybody care about the end of the summer season?
Unfortunately, I don't have anything to add, other than I watched Terminator.
I mean, I watched things, but I've spoken at length about those things already, and they were ongoing. Well, okay, Spice and Wolf wasn't an ongoing situation, but like Slime was. So
well, Spice and Wolf it was still going from spring, so we had been talking about it.
So it was an ongoing situation. So yeah, it was all ongoing situations. What else was I doing this summer? What's the other thing I was reviewing? Oh my god, my brain!
It's
my brain
gone.
Stopped working.
It's mush.
It's gone. I finished it. Dungeon People.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was one I wanted to watch, but I think it was on one of the streaming services I didn't have.
Yeah, it's on High Dive.
Rip.
So, rip. Anything that lives on High Dive. No, and that show was just fine. It was a decent time, but, not gonna set the world on fire, so. My very succinct rundown.
Yeah, I think it's mainly if Kestrel wanted to say anything about the season, because, I watched Terminator, and it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a relatively underwhelming season. My favorite show from it is still airing, so that's fine. Oshinoko second season I reviewed every week. Had a fair amount to say about it, but it wasn't as good as the first season, and a lot of the end of it, where things got crazy, is just setting up for the third season. So not a ton to say about that. The rest of it, we've either talked about, or I don't feel the need to really dive into without anyone to bounce off of.
Okay, then.
Yeah, besides, this season's really good so far. Lots of promise.
Yeah.
Season is doing all right. All right, let's, it's been a minute, so we should probably go over news.
Yeah, it has been 2 months, and our first news comes from 2 months ago.
Oh my god.
Came out, literally before our last episode did.
So
right in the...
We're probably the first ones to break it then, I would think.
Yeah, almost certainly. Yeah, we used the word news very loosely. But I did want to talk about this because it's got me very excited. So back, I don't know, late last year, was it Jump Festa? I don't know. Sometime around a year-ish ago, they announced a new One Piece remake. Whoa, crazy, right? And we don't really know anything about it, except that Wit Studio is doing it, and that is a promising prospect. So for One Piece Day, what are we up to now, 27th anniversary of the One Piece manga, they announced a bunch of other stuff about it, and we're actually just a week or two off from the 25th anniversary of the anime, so should be some stuff coming out for that. But anyway, they announced the full staff behind it and released a big, long, kind of behind-the-scenes video. Still not showing you any, footage, per se, but some of the art style and stuff is communicated. And yeah, the main staff continues to get me dangerously excited, because the director is Masashi Koizuka, who directed Attack on Titan Season 2 and 3, which includes the best of Attack on Titan in my eyes. Also, there's an assistant director who directed some good episodes of first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. Series composition, the adaptive writer, is going to be Taku Kishimoto, who done a ton of stuff. He did the new Fruits Basket anime, the Haikyuu anime, Usagi Drop, Erased, Ranking of Kings, etc. And character designer, chief animation director is Yoji Asano, who also did that for Wit Studios' 3 seasons of Attack on Titan. And then they have a few other people credited as well that aren't immediately recognizable names to me, but based on the core staff there, very, very promising team behind.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is a very hot team.
Yeah.
They want this to be a prestige production, so that's fun.
Yeah. Which is exactly what I hope. So hopefully Wit sticks with it, because they're not very good at that.
Yeah.
They stick with it.
Oh.
I'm surprised you didn't do
Even
it,
I'm not that
considering
bad.
you put the you put the two words right next to each other.
Yeah. No. Okay. Any other
title?
Boo.
Boo.
How do I kick a server?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, any other thoughts on that? By the way, I should have prefaced with this, but the news is mostly going to be horribly depressing news about young women who are legends of the industry dying. So, hope you're cool with that.
Yeah, this is the depressing newscast.
I think it's the problem with like going too long is that I'll end up like not including the stuff that doesn't seem as important, or like, you know, I just deleted G-Kid's licensed Look Back because Look Back has already completed its theatrical run by now. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of irrelevant now. The One Piece, sorry, I didn't say the correct title. The One Piece has not started yet, so the staff announcement is still the latest news for that. However, when people die, I feel like, well, they're like legends. I gotta include this news about their passing. And so inevitably, when we go 2 months without any news or without a podcast, it just ends up being most of the time. So anyway, first of those, we have Rachel Lillis, who was the original voice of Misty and Jessie in Pokemon. She was also Utena in Revolutionary Girl Utena. Lots of big New York projects over the decades. She moved to LA, I don't know, maybe 10-ish years ago, actually, at this point, and had been doing some stuff at Bang Zoom and some other studios, including like the Fate franchise and Hunter x Hunter. And she had still been like actively going to conventions at the beginning of this year and had a few more booked and canceled those. And then I think in like May it was announced that she had breast cancer and had a GoFundMe set up by her sister. And people were contributing to that. And then by August it was announced that she had passed away. I think the initial report said that she was like 46, which would be crazy. She was 55. It was later confirmed. So not as horrible, but still extremely young, extremely sad, and it seemed to be very sudden with how it all...
Yeah, that's, you know, like, we don't, like, yeah, breast cancer still kills people, but usually you don't hear about people, you know, dying from it as much anymore, I feel like. This is the prevention. Usually people are much better about catching it.
Yeah, it's super treatable, which is what makes this even more tragic, in that that's one of the more survivable variants that we go through. Yeah,
there's been a lot of, you know, research and a million other treatments, you know, tried out. And people tend to catch it. Not as, you know, not as easy to catch it and deal with as, like, you know, prostate cancer, but like people, it's just we don't think about that happening as much anymore. And I dread the fact that it's probably because she was a voice actress and didn't have great insurance, probably, that maybe she let that, you know, care lapse or something. And I hope that's not the case, but man.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, on one hand, it's cool that you can, you know, get your fans to contribute money when you really desperately need it. But on the other hand, if you don't have the means to, like, regularly go to the hospital and keep up with your health, then that doesn't necessarily do any good.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations where you read it on X or whatever, where it's like, some student gives up their whole summer earnings to pay for their kids' lunch, or these GoFundMes for various celebrities, and they're played off as heartwarming when in reality they're more tragic than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the feel that I get from this, where it's like, yeah, it's cool, like you said, Kestra, that the fans could help out, but they should not be in a position where they have to subsidize their favorite performer's healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, you know, the fans will put up the money when it becomes like really desperate like this, but what you need is regular insurance, regular health care for your entire life. When that's not possible, then you end up in these situations.
Are a lot of voice actors still just like contractors, almost like independently? I know there's some bigger studios and such out there, like your NYAV Posts and all that, but I don't know what it's like to be hired by them in a way, or if a lot of it is, contract, pay by the gig type stuff, unless you're one of the like big legacy name type people.
Yeah, I mean, I think for anime voice acting especially, it's basically everyone is 100% freelance.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
And you hope if you're in LA that you've got a union gig because the union will pay your insurance. But most anime dubbing is still not union, including Crunchyroll, who mostly dominates the industry. And, some voice actors have been like really strongly advocating for it, and, like the Kyle McCarley, who voiced Mob in Mob Psycho 100, he was gonna do season 3, but he was like, I only do union gigs, and if Crunchyroll won't do union, then I won't do it. And he's like, okay, for this one example, I'll make an exception. If they'll just sit down and talk about starting to do union gigs, then I will consider it. And they wouldn't even have the conversation. So he didn't reprise the role. So they are very adamant about not giving voice actors what they need.
Yeah, which is fucking bullshit. Especially since they're owned by Sony now. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the money's not there.
Right. Yeah, and Rachel Lillis, since she had moved to LA, I know she hadn't done a ton, and in New York the work had mostly dried up. So she wasn't the most active in the industry anyway. Yeah. Very unfortunate. Okay. We'll have a few pieces of not depressing news before we get into just an absolute onslaught. Speaking of Attack on Titan, we are getting a film entitled Attack on Titan, what's it called? The Final Attack? Something like The Last Attack. Attack on Titan, the movie, The Last Attack. It is opening in Japan in a little under a month. It is, of course, a compilation movie. Specifically, this is going to be a compilation of Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 1, chapter 1. Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 1, chapter 2. Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 2, chapter 3. Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 2, chapter 4. And Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 2, chapter 5.
Of course.
As we all know.
Good job getting that all out there, though. You stumbled out of the blocks a little bit, but you really finished strong.
Yeah, the one thing I forgot was the actual name of the movie.
Minor.
Yeah. Anyway, gonna keep milking that cash cow. Gonna keep chopping it up and re-releasing it. So more finals to final. Hooray. Yeah. Other piece of news. So this was a piece of news that Jujutsu Kaisen would be ending in a little over a month. It has since ended. The manga of Jujutsu Kaisen is now officially over forever. As I always like to do when these things are announced and when they happen, especially since it just happened with My Hero Academia a couple months ago, is look at what the longest running current Jump series other than One Piece are. Because they just keep getting more and more recent. So technically, the week after Jujutsu Kaisen ended, just a few days ago here, Hunter x Hunter did start back up. I give it maybe 2-3 chapters before it goes on hiatus for 2-3 years. So
dude just needs to hire some assistants that are not just his wife. Come on, man, just do it.
Absolutely. And at this point, even just an artist. Throw your ideas out. Don't hunch over that desk anymore. Please. Yeah, so of course we have One Piece from 1997. Next oldest now is Mission Yozakura Family, which got an anime this year. Not a huge title, even after the anime. That started in 2019, and from what I hear from the people who are reading it, that is also about to end. So after that ends, the next longest one will be Undead Unluck, which started in 2020, which means that the 2 longest running Jump series at that point will be a series from the 1990s and a series from the 2020.
Wow.
Yep.
Fun trivia.
All the legends are gone.
I mean, most people don't want to write a series that is going to be that long anymore. They'd rather have a nice, tight, ending.
Yeah, I read more about people who hate their own mangas by the time they're done.
Exactly, yeah. I hope this is an indication that artists are actually able to end their series on their own terms instead of being dragged out forever by editorial. Because I would assume all these huge series they would try to keep. Okay, so we're ready to get into a bunch more real sad stuff.
Oh God.
All right, so first we have, these are all just going to be deaths of these people that I mentioned. These are all Japanese women in the anime industry. First is Atsuko Tanaka, age 61. I think the cause of death was not disclosed, other than it was an illness that she had had for some time. She was a Seiyu voice actress, best known as the Major Motoko Kusanagi in all Ghost in the Shell media, except Arise, where they recast everyone to be younger. Everything else, she was Motoko. She was Conan in Naruto franchise, caster, the Fate Stay Night caster, the original one. In that franchise, Lisa in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hanami in Jujutsu Kaisen, and probably one of her most recent major roles was in Frieren as Flamme. So yeah, very iconic, legendary, rich voice that had played many of these characters for decades and was just kind of a go-to for that really powerful, badass woman.
Yeah, Flamme is quite recent. I know, since I don't know names of a lot of these people, when we talk about them passing, I don't quite recognize them for the most part, but that's definitely one that strikes a tone with me at the very least, because, Frieren was just a few months ago, essentially, so that one especially stinks.
Yeah, I think people had thought that maybe she was already sick while recording that, because it seemed like she was going pretty much right up to the end, and that she had this illness for some time. She had been in the hospital for some time, and it looks like, actually looking at her resume, she was still voicing stuff through last season, and even has stuff set to come out next year. So whatever it was, evidently she was still working pretty much right up to the very end. Right. Next one, also, actually, I didn't even realize this, but these two were both Japanese voice actresses, age 61. So the next one is Emi Shinohara, who is best known as Sailor Jupiter and Sailor Moon. She was also Kaho Mizuki in Cardcaptor Sakura, which she reprised in the relatively recent sequel to that. She's also in the Naruto franchise as Kushina, Naruto's mother. But yeah, Sailor Jupiter, probably her most well-known role. And yeah, I think her story was also she had been undergoing treatment for an unspecified illness. In her case, there was a bit more information that she was on a respirator and using a wheelchair, and she had like fractured bones.
Jeez.
So yeah, very rough there. But yeah, remarkably similar, these two, in that they died like a month apart from each other. They had the same job. They had both been doing it since the 80s, and they were both 61 at the time. Yeah, it looks like Hara was less recently active in the industry, which makes sense given the severity of what she had been suffering from. But yeah, definitely two big losses.
People need to stop dying.
Yeah.
Really, that's still the solution to this
easy.
problem.
And if you thought some people dying in their 60s were bad, how about someone dying in her 20s? Finally, the last of these horrible pieces of news, we have the singer and musician Sayuri. She did the ending of Erased, one of the endings of My Hero Academia, the ending of Licorice Recoil. That was a relatively recent one. Yeah, she had a very distinct, powerful voice, and she had been doing anime themes since she was like 20 years old. And she actually like played guitar and wrote her songs. And she had a much more like, I don't know, kind of dark, chilling sound from kind of what I got from her music, compared to a lot of the popular anime themes out there. But yeah, she had, also had some, functional dysphonia, which I guess is basically just a hoarse voice. It's kind of all that they announced. And then when she died, they just said that, again, some chronic illness she had been suffering from, so seemingly the reason behind that. But I don't think there was any indication that it was severe. She had gone on hiatus a few months earlier because of the hoarseness, but I don't think there was any indication that it was anything life-threatening, certainly. And she had just gotten married, I think, earlier this year, and her husband put out a very heartbreaking statement about, apparently she proposed to him, and how tragic it is that he fell in love and was so shocked and happy, and then he has to be her chief mourner and the person announcing this to the world. God, really fucking sucks.
I wonder if it was cancer.
I don't know.
That'd be weird. But...
And yeah, she was 28. I didn't mention specifically. Very, very. Okay. And we can end it on one little nugget of happiness after all that. Of course, lots of shows have ended in the past few weeks, and lots of them have gotten announcements of further seasons. And some older series also got some of those announcements as well. But who cares about anything else? Because Frieren finally got its season 2 officially confirmed.
Yay!
The only thing really announced around it at the time is that it would be Madhouse returning, thank God. We certainly all hope that it is the entire team returning, and nothing has changed, and they have all the time in the world that they need to work on it and make it just as perfect as the first season. No word on a release window. It was just announced for the first anniversary of the anime. I think it was announced as part of some anniversary screenings the day before the anniversary itself. So, yes. I mean, I guess it's the best news we could get. Unfortunately, the best news you can get in anime is very disproportional to how extreme the worst news is. So, it doesn't exactly make up for everything that came before it, but I guess I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, it was only a matter of time for the free run stuff.
That's my question.
No, that is the last question I want to ask. I want them to take all the time in the world. I want them to take 10 years between seasons if that's what they need to keep it perfect. I do not want it to be rushed. I do not want it to change staff. I do not want anything to go wrong to jeopardize it.
I can't help but agree.
I wonder if they're like... I wonder if it's a passion project over there or not. I assume if it was a passion project, they would have just announced that they were doing more right away. But
yeah, I mean, you still kind of need the funding and everything in place logistically to get it going.
Yeah, everyone's schedules need to line up.
And, I mean, you know, the earlier you announce it and the longer you wait to actually release it, the more people are going to be like, why isn't it out yet? You already announced it.
That's true.
And it's only, 6 months that they waited since the ending. So, wait 6 months to announce it, wait another 6 months to a year for it to start. Totally fine with it. Take your time. That's all the news I got.
Oh, cool.
All right.
The only other thing I was going to say, because you had mentioned that, I think...
So we can move on to actual discussion about the fall season of anime now. Hopefully some more positive news, less horrible depression.
Yeah, that'll be a nice change of pace. The only thing I wanted to add was I was surprised that Hell's Paradise got announced for a second season, because I remember when it was airing and we were talking about it that we weren't sure if that was going to happen because the reception wasn't fantastic despite it being a very good show, and I think that had aired before Free Run.
Mm-hmm.
So, very delayed second season announcement.
Spring. Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're getting to some of the other announcements, they just announced a new season of Grand Blue, which was like, I don't know, 6 years ago? 7 years?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, oh my god. We're back on the train.
Yeah. Yeah, that was 6 years ago. But yeah, more Hell's Paradise, more of lots of stuff that just ended. Lots and lots.
Indeed. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about some new season stuff. We can bop right into it. I don't know if anyone want to talk about anything in particular or just address the elephant in the room right away.
What could that be?
It just dovetails nicely into your let free run take as long as you want. And I'm like, how about we don't? And try to keep some type of production schedule so that we don't potentially end up with what we have with Uzumaki.
That was kind of the opposite reason too. Like, it's also, they eventually cut it short, and that's why we got Now, what they were doing in Uzumaki was not something you can do on a regular schedule, which was the issue. And also, Nagahama is insane and wants to take forever on every frame. We have a precedent for the production of Frieren. However long that took, take exactly that long again. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so for those not in the know, we should explain what is going on here.
I feel like it's not hard to be in the know.
Recording this after episode 2, And
Yes.
The world of Uzumaki may have changed dramatically in a few days, as it did a few days ago.
This is also true. So from where we're standing, 700 years ago, Toonami announced that they were funding the production of Uzumaki. So, a cult classic horror title from Junji Ito, right?
Right.
Yep.
And it is his work that is famous for the spirals of creepy spirals. So they released a couple of teasers for this over the years with just stunning, beautiful black and white art. Very, very cool, very moody, very, very much like the manga. Everybody was very excited. COVID hit, delays came, more delays came, and we lost Kane.
20 minutes later.
Okay, where was I?
Talking about Uzumaki delays.
Uzumaki.
Yeah, when my audio cut out, it was early.
Yep. So Uzumaki was announced a bazillion years ago. It was in production for a zillion years. Previews looked good. COVID hit. We hadn't heard anything. Things were taking forever. We never knew if it was actually coming out. They announced it was coming out in fall 2024. First episode airs. It looks fucking amazing. Second episode airs, and it looks like the Berserk adaptation from 2020 or whatever year that was.
That was 2016. It wasn't that bad. Berserk was way worse.
Just amateur hour. So, needless to say, everybody's very sad and disappointed.
Yeah.
To
Mm-hmm.
the point where Jason DeMarco made a statement on Blue Sky and then promptly deleted it.
Oh, did he?
But, yeah,
Oh,
he deleted
surprising.
it. But post everybody screenshotting it and spreading the
course.
screenshot around. Where let me see if I can just get his statement on this, because it was like there's a lot of reading between the lines in that statement.
Yeah, I've got it up here.
It was like 4, I don't know, pages. I don't know what you call them. Consecutive tweets, posts. Sure.
Tweets. That's a terrible word, but
Yep.
that's what people were calling it. All right, you want to read this, Kestrel, since you've got it up?
Okay, yeah. So he said, and it doesn't show what it was in response to, but obviously people were talking about it, and he said, "It's fine, we knew this would happen. We can't talk about what went down, but we were screwed over, and the options were A, not finish and air nothing and call it a loss, B, just finish and air episode 1 and leave it incomplete, or C, run all 4, warts and all. Out of respect for the hard work, we chose C. After waiting so long, it makes sense people would be mad. Unfortunately, I can't tell them who to blame it on, but someone is definitely at fault here, and we all just had to do our best when things imploded. Maybe others would have made different choices. We did the best we could with what we had. But again, a lot of people worked very hard on the show, and I didn't think the actions of just 1 or 2 people should be the reason it never saw the light of day. Maybe that's the wrong choice, I truly don't know, but those people have a right to be annoyed and disappointed. I'm glad you are digging it."
Oh, my thoughts instantly went to Zaslav.
Yeah.
And him going, what is this thing that is taking forever and costing all this money over here? You can't keep doing that. And they said, no, we're doing Thing. And they said, no, you can't. We're not giving you any more money for Thing.
And also, it was kind of revealed that Hiroshi Nagahama, who directed Mushishi and directed Flowers of Evil, which was all rotoscoped, which he insisted on despite it costing 3 times as much and people hating it. He is the kind of guy who insists on taking 20 minutes to sketch for everyone in line for autographs for free, even if his session's supposed to be 2 hours and he goes 5 hours over and never leaves his seat and refuses to compromise even if he's being kicked out by staff. So this guy, insisted that they keep making it this perfect process that he had kind of set up for it, and he basically got to do that with episode 1, and that's how the 5+ years of delays happened for 4 episodes, and as it turns out, only maybe 1 or 2 good episodes. And I did interview him at Otakon, and he did blame the delays entirely on COVID. He said that it involved a particular production process that was greatly affected by COVID in a way that was incomparable to other anime. It would have been simple if it was a regular anime. And yeah, he, got his way for at least the first episode, and he also at least worked on the 4th episode in the same capacity, so that might also be as good. Not sure if it got quite as much time. But word is that he was banned from participating in episode 2 because he was correcting too much on episode 1, and obviously it took, basically half a decade to get 20 minutes of content out. So they were like, no, you need to fucking stop. You're not working on this anymore. We will outsource it to someone who will do it quick and dirty. And they did.
So not handled the best way all around.
Yeah, like, I know it makes me the bad guy in a lot of ways, but there is blame to be shared by all. Like, anime is a business. It just is.
Yes.
And I get it's also an art, but when you have one guy that's taking 5 years to make 24 minutes of a show, unless the company is willing to make no money and lose money actively, of course they're not going to allow that to continue. Now, their decision to also outsource it to just a really apparently god-awful group of animators is something they can also be criticized for, because they could have at least outsourced it to someone who is competent to do something. But there is definitely blame to be shared all around. Like, I know I've seen tons of people just blame the producers as if they're the big bad guys when, yeah, they're the ones that are easy to blame, of course, but then there's just like, yeah, you gotta rein in the creative types occasionally, because if it actively loses a lot of money, then that damages everything all around. So,
Producers have 2 jobs. Make sure the thing happens, and make sure the thing happens on budget.
Yeah.
And this did not go well.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of him being banned from working on stuff is just such a bizarre concept.
From being banned from working on episode 2 of his own show.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that is hard to wrap my head around.
Wait, at what point was like the point where DeMarco and the others were just approached him, were like, we have no more money. We have no more money to give this project. You've burned it all. Like, it's like, and with who is in charge of who's above us now is not going to cut you another check. It's like, we have exactly 42 cents left.
Right. Like,
to finish the show.
To put it in context, by the time they started production of this show, it would still be another 3 years before Zaslav even had anything to do with Warner. They were a completely different company back then. That was Warner Media under AT&T, and then they became Warner Brothers Discovery when they merged with Discovery. And frankly, it's incredible that this lasted as long as it did, because they cut so many animated properties, so many projects that were well underway or complete. So yeah, it's kind of incredible that this even made it out in any form.
Yeah, and it's truly sad. I think it may be one of the only shows I've watched where I've actively been sad watching it. Like, it's not even by story or otherwise. Like, I've watched shows that had sad bits, but I was texting Kestrel while I was watching, and I was just like, I just told him, this is actively making me depressed. Like, just watching this, just seeing all of the potential, all of the talent, everything just be flushed down the toilet in that goddamn beach scene. That fucking broke me. When the characters are just running up a wall of sand, floating along the top of it, and then you just see their flat facial expressions the whole time. Man, did it suck. Man, it sucked so hard.
as noted, how incredible the first episode was.
Oh yeah, the shading is perfect. The animation is absolutely pristine. It is as close to watching a manga in motion with Ito's style as you could possibly get, and then just to see it crumble. There are people. I remember I took a picture of my screen and sent it to you, Kester. I was like, these people don't even have hands. They just have blobs on the end of their arms, and then barely any like stick figure level facial expressions. Like, it is just woof.
Which is funny because that's something that has happened in almost all of Nagahama's series for different reasons, from like different production processes. Because like that happened all the time in Flowers of Evil too, because it's just rotoscoped and sometimes it won't pick up on those details. And even Mushishi, both the old and the new one, there's lots of times that, background characters just won't have faces. And it's fine there, it works. But here, they're just obvious, ugly CG blobs just flailing about. And yeah, that climactic scene, it really is like the climax of the production falling apart. As much as it's the climax of the episode, because that's definitely where it gets to be that berserk quality for a minute or two.
Yep, it completely encapsulates everything that went wrong. Like, and then when they twirl together into like the snake thing, the snake spiral, and they go out into the water, and the water doesn't react to their entering or exiting. It's boy, was it tough to watch. Like, luckily, since it's just 4 episodes, I'll just plow through to the finish because you're already halfway through at this point. It's only 40 more minutes or so of your time, and maybe the episode 4 is going to be pretty good, which at least you'll have a amazing first and finale episode, and then just the worst Oreo cookie that you could ever imagine eating.
Yes.
But yeah, it's sad. I've seen a lot of like reckless speculation. I was doing it myself in the chat with Kestrel for funsies, but there is some people who really have some opinions out there. One guy just immediately blamed the West. I was like, okay.
I mean, I blame the liberals personally.
Yeah. Kamala probably.
Yeah,
actually, she put a stop to the production.
Uzumaki.
Nice. Oh, boom.
Oh, God.
But we get an episode every Sunday, I think, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's immediately aired afterwards on HBO Max, because that's how I've been watching it, so.
Yeah, it's, Toonami, so it's Saturday nights if anyone has TV, but it's on Sunday on Max.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I mean, I'm probably going to kick myself for saying this, but it can't get worse.
We'll see.
Yeah, it can't be 2016 Berserk for that long. Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to see. So it is what it is. But I figured it would be good for us to get it out of the way in the beginning, because of course it is what is taking this season by storm already.
Yeah, especially this week.
Yeah. Ooh. Whew.
Like,
I thought people were overreacting when I saw the first opinions come up in my news feeds before I got a chance to watch it. And people were saying it's embarrassing and like pathetic, and I went, "Oh, that's just typical internet stuff. Probably someone didn't get the shading on a face right, and fans are overreacting."
That's the shit that people were saying about like Jujutsu Kaisen season 2. I'm like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, like that show, that second season definitely had some parts that didn't look quite as good, but it wasn't. No, not anywhere near what this has turned into. But we will see.
Yeah, you can't really get any more dramatic than highly anticipated adaptation announced half a decade ago. This auteur, uncompromising, very uncompromising director behind it, hyping it up for 5 years. Jason and Maki hyping it up. First episode that lives up to all those impossible expectations that were set, and then a week later, just the worst crumbling of production and all these behind the scenes kind of gossip falling out about pointing fingers and what went wrong and who's to blame and how this happened. This is like the most dramatic scenario you could possibly get in anime production.
Indeed. Well, I don't know, Kate, if you had anything else to say, we can move on to greener pastures.
No, let's move on.
Okay. Cool. So, is there anything else that you are watching that we may have in common, Kate, or are we stepping into Kestrel and I territory?
Let me see.
Did you watch Ranma?
No, Ranma.
You're watching Orb. We're all watching Orb.
Oh, we're all watching Orb.
Oh, well, there we go. Let's talk a little bit about Orb and its 2-episode premiere.
Yeah, that threw me through a loop when I fired that up. I'm like, oh shit, wait, when did this actually start?
Yeah.
Oh, it started today. Okay.
You're right. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. I guess it's popular these days.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did, because I think it was a very effective 40 or so minutes. Emily and I watched it together, and definitely liked it. It's for sure gonna be it feels like a slow burn type where people are going to love it or hate it depending on how much action you want out of this thing, because you're definitely not going to get it. So, but I really enjoyed it. I like I mean, I'm a sucker for church bad, so I do have a bit of a bias, but it seems to be going in a very promising direction regarding like very early science and things. I'm sure it's going to take several heavy-handed liberties.
What?
Yeah. No way. Like, I've already heard that torture tool that the Inquisitor was using is most likely incredibly fake.
Oh yeah, super fake. Like,
Yeah.
incredibly, like, this did not exist, and if it did exist, it was like a lemon juicer.
Yeah,
and not a
what do they
torture
call it?
device.
The Pair of Misery, I think, which is an
Yeah.
incredible name.
Yeah, that's super hilarious. And also, they're like, yeah, you know all those like medieval torture devices that are just complete bullshit, and somebody made them up in the Victorian era to be like, look at this,
Right.
look at how much more advanced we are from the barbarians that we used to be. It's like, no, you still suck, but also those didn't exist. Those aren't real.
Super effective propaganda, though.
True, very much true. Now, pulling off people's fingernails, that was totally a thing that existed, but, you know.
That was quite
Was
an
there
interesting
church doing
opening
it?
they
Yeah.
used. Yeah, the first thing you
Yeah.
see is a dude getting his fingers pulled off by a church inquisitor, and it sets a certain tone almost
Yep.
immediately.
It's like, oh, we're just gonna go straight there.
Yeah, plus, of course, it's voiced by that one guy who does all of those types of characters.
Oh,
so,
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, immediately you know that man is unhinged, and he's going to be doing some incredibly evil things in the name of the church.
It was so funny. That starts up, and I'm like, this guy just, like, fell out of Vinland Saga. I'm like, what is he doing here? This guy shouldn't be here.
Yeah, his hairstyle does really kind of do some things. Not to mention him just wearing a shirt with bloody sleeves on it. I was like, oh, okay, this guy is definitely in an anime, and everyone else is just living in Europe.
Yeah. Like, this guy's just a time traveler. Traveling serial killer. It's like, where'd this guy come from? Yeah, and then they started off and they're like, in the country of P.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a religion C, and I'm all like, dude, just say Poland in the Roman Catholic Church. We get it. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Or Prussia, or one of those P countries that's supposed to actually be set in.
Yep, not fooling anybody.
No, it's like, come on. But I guess when you're gonna, start introducing like fake medieval torture devices and stuff, I guess it's not even medieval. It's like, this is like 1600-esque. Yeah, I don't know. Historical fiction, we will call it.
Indeed. It didn't pull any punches, though, for a lot of that stuff, which surprised me. Like, it wasn't over the top in its depiction of gore or violence, but you saw, that guy getting his fingernails pulled. They were burning heretics in one episode and just kind of watching it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it really throws you in the deep end. And it was interesting how the main character sort of took it all in. I mean, he's that classic I'm 12, but I'm not. Like, I'm actually fucking 46 in my brain at this point.
Yeah.
He's
exactly.
also in an anime.
Yeah, he's definitely also in an anime.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like that, and I know the term isn't quite working here, but I liked that realism, so to speak, where it didn't try to sugarcoat how stuff did kind of happen. Like, people got burned for shit all the time and all that. So it sets a tone that I think is going to be really effective moving forward. As
Yeah, they wanted to impart like how dangerous like it was to go against, the authority at that time, which was the church, and like, yeah, you didn't want to be on the wrong side of the church, but also, they probably, if some random schmuck was like, the Earth revolves around the sun, like they weren't gonna like burn some random like dude for that. Oh, other guy who was totally in the anime, knows he's in an anime, Hubert, the dude we were introduced to. I'm like, what is this guy? He's like 9 feet tall and like he looks like a fucking wizard. It's like, what are you doing? What did you do? Like,
right, so they're all anime characters. They just happen to be in real Europe.
Yeah, which is funny. It's a funny juxtaposition, but yeah. An interesting show. It's an interesting show.
And it seems like it's going to be pretty sort of not fast moving in terms of its pace. It's like a slow burn show, but I think it's 25 episodes, and we're just getting them all in a row. So
yeah, and it's going to cover the entire story.
Yeah, so we're getting just all of it, which is cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, it's nice to have something that's going to have a beginning, middle, and end, and that's it.
Yep.
Don't have to worry about it coming back.
What'd you think of the all-important night sky? Considering that's what we're basing this whole kind of show and heliocentrism bit off of, they really put some effort into their stars.
It was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was
dark.
legitimately very nice.
The show's very dark and very difficult to take screenshots of. As I tried to write my review, I'm like, dark, still dark. I get it. This is the period before modern lighting, and yes, there's a lot of nighttime stuff happening because stars. But yeah, that looked nice. The rest of it, was pretty average.
Who's making it? It's
this is Madhouse.
Yes, it's Madhouse, right? It's not some rinky-dink outfit.
Yeah, no, it's clearly not their A team, which is fine because free run. They need their resources where it matters. But yeah, I agree. Where it needed to shine, it's shown.
Yeah, and it's not like they have to really animate a ton of really dynamic things. A lot of this show is just two people talking to each other.
Right.
So you don't need your top-notch squad all up on here.
It's a show about science.
Yep. So yeah, I'm interested to see because I think there's a time skip in here somewhere. So I'm interested to see where that goes and kind of how this kid is expected to dodge or not dodge the church, and how this the setting, like Kate, you had said, has made the church pretty much like an all-encompassing, all-seeing eye type situation. Like, very hard to hide things from them. So now that he's 12 and going off to university, I want to see how that kind of pans out. Especially the last thing you see at the end of the second episode is him pretty much just giving his foghat bassist of a father the middle finger on what he's going to be studying, and then just going off. So we will see.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I tried to avoid, I was trying to see, I'm like, is this done? Is this, how many volumes in this? And I'm like on Wikipedia, and I'm trying not to look at any of the plot summary or anything. I'm like, no.
Oh yeah, the eternal struggle.
I was like, I don't want to know. I just want to know how many volumes. God damn it.
Yeah, once I saw that they were like, it's going to be 25 episodes and it's going to be the whole story all told in a row, that's all I really needed to know for the most part. So
yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, looking forward to it. The only criticism that Emily pretty much had was her. Yeah, this is an anime moment. Was actually none of the character designs or anything. It was when they were talking, Hubert and the kid whose name I can't remember. Rafal, and they just kept referring to like, your depiction of the universe is not beautiful.
Yeah, that was very anime.
It was super anime, and Emily was like, "Ugh, I hate it when they do this. Nobody talks like this."
Well, they did in 15th century Japanese European P Kingdom, all right?
Yeah, the Kingdom of P, as depicted by Japan. Yeah. But
with
cool.
Everybody using, Japanese inflection and honorifics, which would not have been present. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just the language. I mean, they don't include those in the subtitles, do they?
No.
Yeah, they're usually good about not including those in European settings.
It was just, it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, this is dragging me out.
Yeah, I mean, is this dubbed?
It's Netflix. It's got it. Do they dub everything?
They dub most things, but no, it doesn't look like this has a dub, so, interesting.
Weird.
Yeah, it's certainly a good candidate for one.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah. It's like Bakano. It's like, why would you watch this in Japanese if you have, any sort of love for dubs?
All right. I think we can shift if we've talked about Orb enough with these 2 episodes. We have several other things. I want to jump into something that's legitimately good and talk a little bit about our soccer boys.
All right.
Not just our soccer boys, but the fact that they did the MLG gamer horn meme as a legitimate line just fucking sent me. Like,
can you put that soundbite in here, Kate?
Oh man, you gotta.
Oh, yeah, I'll put that in there. Somebody make a timestamp for that.
Yeah, because Kate in the episode, 2 characters are about to get into like a fight, and one of the background characters just goes, "Oh man," and then just does the sound out of nowhere, and I was just transcended. I was this show is just picking up right where it left off.
Don't DJs sometimes use that horn too?
Yeah.
So you could call it the DJ horn.
Oh.
That was pretty good.
No,
you guys owe me that one. That was pretty good.
Oh, he's not even around.
I know. This is as much of him as we get.
I'm gonna clip that and send it to him and be like, "This is what happens when you're not here."
Your name gets taken in vain. But yeah, I was really happy with the first episode of Blue Lock, if only because I didn't watch the movie, like the Nagi spinoff, but I had heard that didn't look very good and wasn't particularly great, and that same team was going to be working on it. I don't know if Kestrel, you watched it and can attest to it, but it seemed like it was pretty middling. But I thought it looked just as good as it ever did. I mean, Ego's neck was as long as it's ever been. Everybody's eyes were all fucking weird. And it just kind of really picked up with the action in terms of, dividing the teams and creating more antagonists and everything. So I'm glad it just it didn't it didn't let us up with any slack right away. So that was very promising.
Yeah, the movie was kind of weird because it's kind of a clip show and kind of a retelling and kind of completely new material. Because it's like, what if Nagi was the main character? So let's just follow him through Blue Lock. So when him and Isagi aren't in the same scene, it's new material. And when they are, it's the stuff you've already seen. So kind of an interesting but not that effective experiment for a movie. Better than an actual clip show, I guess. But yeah, it was good to get back to the story proper and all our boys and having lots of fun.
Yeah, and some new ones that I don't really recognize.
Yeah.
Which is funny considering how big the cast was in the first season. You thought you saw all of them, and then nope, there's a zillion others that you're just getting introduced to now with even more ridiculous haircuts.
Yes. Yeah, and we're getting to the best of the best, and it is, certainly mixing up its formula, which is good. Like, if Blue Lock had gone as planned, then it probably would have been getting a little repetitive at this point. But it was a good point to stop the first season and start the next one, because now season 2 gets to be this completely different kind of plot. At least that's the idea. So yeah, different stakes, different dynamics, and we get to see the best of the group and the best of the outside world, which we haven't really seen the outside world. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I like how the author, the writers have made the show in such a way that even though we're still just playing soccer, they switch up the way the team formats work and everything. So you get even more like interchangeable antagonistic characters because of the fact that there are no permanent teams or semi-permanent anymore. It's just one game with the couple guys that you have against the other teams to try and figure out who's going to make it to this the Blue Lock 11 or something like that.
Right.
And it's just enough of a tweak on like a tournament style format and everything that it kind of reinvigorates your interest into them just playing a shitload of soccer with what is essentially a lot of the same similar characters. So I think it's good that they took that break to bring it back, like you were saying. I also like how, for the most part, the show also does a good job of keeping the real like rivalries and antagonism kind of on the pitch, and when they're not on it, they generally get along a little nicer. Like they know, in a way at least, when to kind of turn it on and off, because I think it would be a little bit exhausting if they were as intense as they were on the pitch towards each other all of the time. So, and that's reminiscent to like actual athletics and stuff. Like, you can watch any sports, and for the most part, obviously, all your emotions and your drive is increased when you're actually in the heat of the moment. But then when you're on the sidelines and the game's over, most people tend to kind of tone it down. So it's nice to see them be able to interact with each other. Oh, and then you got to see Baru with his hair not up.
That's right.
Which was interesting, and I'm like, this is gonna get memed. Because he's so hot. And then the one other question I wanted to pose to you, Castro, because now that I don't know if this really happened in the first season at all, but I guess that bathroom scene when they're taking care of their hair and skin and stuff, I realized how much Blue Lock branded merchandise they have. And I couldn't help but think, how expensive is this program?
Yeah.
They have Blue Lock toothbrushes, Blue Lock face cream, Blue Lock shampoo, Blue Lock hair gel. Like, what in the fuck how did he get all this money? I don't have to blame the football agency for wanting to crush it. I bet they're seeing all them zeros add up on the invoice for fucking Blue Lock Fruit Loops and shit that it's making them go nuts.
Like, what is this, fucking Nagahama running the show? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the first time I really noticed it.
Yeah, same.
I think at one point one of the guy he's like, I'm gonna borrow your hair gel. I'm like, it's the same as everybody else's. There's so much of it. Man, I hope they do a little bit more, and it looks like they're setting that up too, as well, for the two brothers, the one at the captain of the U18 or whatever age is, yeah. U20, and then our Blue Lock boy.
Yeah.
Since apparently there was some type of true dividing moment between them, as shown in that like brief flashback in the beginning. So they're setting something up there too, which will be fun. But yeah, overall, really happy with that first episode.
Yeah, definitely. Rin was a main character for the second half of the first season, and he's always been the best of Blue Lock, and he's always had this inferiority complex to his brother, who is, the best under 20 soccer player in Japan. And so now this whole thing is going to see them clashing. So that's definitely going to be a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Presumably Isagi will make the cut as well, because he is the perspective character, and we won't see it happen if he's not in it.
Imagine if they don't. That would be insane. And then it just cuts to Rin's show.
Right.
Like, Isagi drops out, and then they just cut to Rin, and it's oh well. He just wasn't good enough.
He locks off, you mean?
Yep, nice. That's right, I forgot. Ugh.
He didn't say it once in episode 1, so needed to remind you.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about the terminology.
But yeah, look forward to a Blue Lock episode Rin.
Yeah, and granted, it's it's a show that's really much in its infancy, but I do also appreciate how they're doing the power scaling somewhat. Like, we've seen a lot of soccer so far, but no one's been really doing things that are superhuman, at least as of yet, as opposed to Prince of Tennis, another show that I'm legally and morally obligated to watch at this point in my life, where it is getting a little tiresome how absolutely batshit insane all of these quote-unquote 16-year-olds are. Like, yeah, I don't have a ton to say about the Prince of Tennis stuff. I just wanted to transition into that since it felt like we were done with Blue Lock, but it is still going. These 40-year-old but also 16-year-old dudes are somehow not good enough to be pros, but you see how their powers are developing in this pseudo-Olympic state, and there's a guy who can just freeze you physically by looking at you, and then just freeze you, and then control the trajectory and curve of a ball in midair. But then when he's playing against another guy who can somehow cancel that out with his own gaze, and I'm just tired. I'm tired. I love Prince of Tennis, but I think that is also the problem when you're trying to revive it and do all of these past the first episode bits, when you had Prince of Tennis 2 and then this U17 World Cup stuff and all this, is that they elevated the powers to such an extent in the original that they almost have nowhere to go, and it's like a DBZ thing now.
Yeah.
Where everybody is just a god on Earth. And they're not even really playing tennis so much anymore. It's actually gotten to the point where when they're not doing a special move, they are CGI animated.
Nice.
On the court, doing just some very basic looking strokes, and they'll cut into a zoom in of a character while they're doing their internal monologue, or they do a special move or something, and it makes it even more odd. Oh, and one guy can jump about 25 feet in the air, so that certainly helps with the overhead smash when you can jump so high that you might get clipped by a 747 going overhead. It's nuts, but I must keep watching it. I do not have a choice.
It's true.
Yep. It is what it is. Everybody has their Sisyphean tasks in life, and this happens to be mine. That's about it for Prince of Tennis. But how about we talk a little bit about some Dan to Dan?
Yeah.
Let's cover some Dan to Dan, because I saw that shit in the theater.
That's right.
Yep. So I want to hear what your take is on it, Castro, because I know I basically told you what I thought when I got out of the theater, and the many pros and then the one enormous con that I had.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find it to be as egregious as I was expecting, given your reaction to it.
I'm also sensitive to it, so that's something
I guess
too.
So. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just more desensitized.
Youths.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, yeah, it was fucking crazy, bizarre, off the walls, Science Saru at their 11 out of 10. Really great production, really dynamic, kinetic energy. Love the music. I like the character dynamics. I think there's a lot of potential with them. It's a lot of fun. don't really know what to expect of the overall plot going forward. Probably the people who got to see 3 episodes in theaters have a better introduction to it. But just from the first episode, yeah, looks like a lot of fun, really solid production. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it definitely is one of the most dynamic shows I've seen in a while. And that was something that when I watched the first episode with Emily, she agreed with. Like, the action and like art perspectives and styles always kind of keep you on the edge of your seat, not just from this like story plot, but how people's faces can contort oddly and limbs don't stay within scale in a stylistic manner when they're doing things. And
Right.
yeah, just the very eye-popping use of colors just really presents this very incredible looking package that I liked and appreciate, and I think that's the whole Science Saru thing. And it, for the most part, pretty much through the 3 episodes I believe that I saw in theaters, it keeps that. Like, that is, we're not getting here's everything shoveled to you in the first episode and then we're going to tone it down. You do get those moments because at the end of the day, as far as I understand from my friend that I saw it with who read the manga, there is like a rom-com element. It's just the way they place those elements, just like in episode 1, can be also just as tonally whiplash in the most positive sense. Like, they'll go from some type of emotional grounding moment where they're talking about their personal struggles, and then just like a spirit or alien will explode behind them and then they have to jump in to try to defeat it, or something they're investigating kind of kicks into high gear in the middle of one of these conversations. And in that way, it feels oddly extra real, because rarely in human life does a conversation go from point A to point B to point C with no interruptions in the way that dramas tend to be. So it was oddly relatable to have their conversations and their heartfelt moments be interrupted by chaos. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. The opening theme is also pretty banging.
Yeah. Creepy Nuts is definitely working their way up the ladder.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, looking forward to it. I don't think this is finished yet. I don't know if it's anywhere close to being finished, the manga. So
Yeah, no, the manga's definitely still going.
yeah, I knew nothing about it before I went to see it in the theater, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into when it comes to the source material. But yeah, it's,
I haven't read any of it either. I always see it on Shonen Jump, but I think they probably didn't start it like right when it started, and so by the time they got it, I was like, it's already X number of chapters in. I won't bother. But yeah, this anime adaptation was definitely very hyped up, and you know, like we said, they put it in theaters. It's been making the convention circuit. It's been a very big deal for promotion and everything. So I'm glad to see that it lived up to that hype.
yeah, I like to think also that I know that this deals a lot with the occult and stuff, and I know of relatively small amount about that just from podcasts I listen to, but I want to believe that when they're escaping the UFO and it blows out the side, that was a fake moon, like a hollow moon gag, because that is a distinct conspiracy theory thing that the moon is actually hollow.
Nice.
I know it turned into, well, it was just the UFO disguising itself as the moon rather than the moon being the ship itself, but I choose to believe that is a heavy-handed but still like wink wink nudge nudge to that particular like occult conspiracy theory and stuff, because I know that's, you know, it's part of the whole fabric of the show is the, you know, occult kun, as he's called, is into all that stuff like space, you know, the space agencies, Loch Ness Monster, Skinwalker Ranch, all that stuff. And then she's into ghosts and supernatural stuff. So I'm sure there'll be tons of Easter eggs in that way throughout this.
Right, yeah. Seems very well researched.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah, it's shaping up to be something that'll be really promising and sort of as much must watch as it gets, at least in this household.
Yeah, it's definitely like the biggest new show of the season, like hands down. I don't feel like we've had one of those to that caliber in a few seasons.
Outside of Negative Positive Angler, of course.
Of course.
Of course, the fishing show that's taking the world by storm. But yeah, all right. So we've covered some of that. Castro, is there anything you want to talk about in particular? We do have a couple more that we are watching together, but I know that your list, as always, tends to be larger than mine. So,
I mean, my other stuff is mostly sequels, so we can keep talking about stuff we have in common, I guess.
Cool. So, how'd you feel about the Ranma Half HD 2D remaster?
I liked it. I think I've always liked Ranma more than Urusei Yatsura, but I dropped that remake a few episodes in, and obviously we're only one episode in on this so far, but it was a lot of fun. I don't think I've ever watched any of the original anime. I have several volumes of the manga. I've read those, but I don't know that I've ever actually watched any of the anime, which is weird because it was fairly big over here in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I thought very well animated, solid production overall. What I would expect from a 2024 remake of an 80s show. So nothing too surprising, but nothing really disappointing, either from it being, too old or too new, as it were. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it was very clean. Like, I thought it looked pretty damn incredible while still maintaining the attitude and the style of the original. Because, like you, I hadn't really watched it. I think at most I saw 5 to 10 minutes of an episode one time. And it was several years ago, and I think it was on that, what was it called, like Retro Crush, that free retro anime channel that's on Roku's and stuff, and they were playing it, and I turned it on, and Emily was actually more familiar and had seen more of it than I did. So I was going into it very fresh, and yeah, it looks really good. The action was surprisingly well animated, the fights that were in that first episode, and I already really like the dynamic between Ranma and their father, the panda Gemma?
Yeah, I think Genma.
Yeah.
Ranma and Genma, yeah.
And how they just routinely beat the shit out of each other. So that's a lot of fun too, and I think has a lot of promise as well, as long as that production value can keep up. But yeah, it's something that I think is going to be probably one of the more lighthearted things going on, at least from first blush. I don't know if it gets more serious as we go on, but that definitely doesn't appear to be the case.
Yeah, I definitely found Urusei Yatsura much more annoying, which I guess is appropriate. So as long as this doesn't kind of fall into Takahashi's tropes of kind of really annoying characters and repetitive, misunderstandings and convenient tropes to keep status quo and to keep them kind of at an arm's length forever, then it should have some potential, but that is always a risk with her work. And of course, there's the risk that they just rush through it too much, which I think they probably did with Urusei Yatsura. And I think this one is probably more plot-based, so it might be more difficult to do that. So hopefully there are no major compromises that need to be made, because the original series is very long, as most of her series are.
Yeah, if I recall, that original anime was like at least
episodes or something.
I was going to say at least 150 from what I recall.
Yeah. I will say one thing: draw nipples, you cowards.
Oh yeah, there was definitely that. Well, like, that's for the Blu-ray release. You don't get the nipples unless you pay the premium.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had the courage to say it though. I wonder why Chris doesn't like it, or seemingly doesn't like it. Because I know he had mentioned that.
He was down on it before it even aired.
Yeah,
Isn't it because he wants another one of the properties redone?
Well, that certainly doesn't help that they skipped over Maison Ikoku, which is definitely her best work.
Mm.
And it's his favorite, so...
Yeah. But also, like, you know, when you've been invested in the original for decades and then a shiny new remake comes out, you're going to pick apart all the things that it does differently, probably.
I mean, understandable in that way. So I can't say I've seen Maison Ikaku either, so I don't really appreciate it in that way, but I do know that it is pretty influential in everything, so I can understand his annoyance at that. But hopefully, if this does well enough, then they'll move on to that portion, and then everybody can be happy.
Yeah.
But all right, so yeah, we got a couple good ones in a row there to cover up some of the bad stuff that we were talking about. I know I have a couple more shows that I'll just go over real quick, because I don't think we're definitely not sharing any of these, because I do not believe you are interested in fishing or golf. But Tonbo is back, which is surprising, because I didn't know if it was going to be good enough or what Amazon had purchased. But that's back, so very happy there. As realistic of a golf series as you can get, while still having a sort of a feel like Barakamon in that way, if you remember that show.
Yeah.
Very similar themes, like somewhat disgraced professional goes to island to seclude themselves and then finds precocious child who's very good at something and then inspires them to become a better person. So it's got that going still, and we're doing a bit of a, I think, not a time, well, we did have a little bit of a time skip there right before season 2 started, so that could be interesting as well. But just glad to see it back, period, because I don't think it was particularly popular. And then Negative Positive Angler, the fishing anime, has a very, very weird opening. Like, they tried to establish dramatic heft of the main character being at rock bottom in the beginning before they find fishing, and they do so by just showing a series of eviction notices, and then he tries to hang himself.
Wow.
Dark.
Yeah, within the first 5 or 10 minutes of a fishing anime. But they kind of botch it in a way in that he messes up the suicide attempt, and instead of playing it off very seriously, they show him putting the noose over his neck and then jumping and then making anime faces like he's choking, like you would see in a shonen when someone's getting Ash Ketchum is being choked by Misty or whatever because he did something pseudo perverted. You get those heavily exaggerated facial expressions before the rope snaps and stuff. So I don't know if maybe they backed out at the last minute of thinking it was too dark, and then instead of just scrapping that whole bit, they were just like, well, what if we put him in a funny face? Oh. So that part is very jarring. But once we get to the area where he finds fishing by escaping some debtors that he borrowed money from, and then at this point he's also been given 2 years to live by his doctor, so he's very, very down in the pits. He meets the fishing people. They do their normal fishing, sports shonen thing where they just dump him right into it and teach him how to do it on the fly. And that is where the show shined somewhat. It definitely has a diverse cast of people who do the fishing. There's, a handsome, athletic dude, a club girl, a 50-year-old, 2-foot tall guy with no eyes. He's just balding and has one of those glasses in his eyes look like puckered lips deals. They have a pretty fun cast there. So it definitely has some room to grow and go places. And as he discovers this fishing thing and this hobby that can hopefully give him some purpose in life. But that first episode was a roller coaster.
Well,
yeah, weird. Super weird. But yeah, and then I already talked about Prince of Tennis. That pretty much covers everything on my list so far. I think 8 shows, a new personal record thus far.
Amazing.
I know, right? I'm really moving on up.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody is.
All right, so you like soccer, you like tennis, you like golf, you like fishing. Do you like badminton and or basketball?
Yes. General sports, I am down to clown.
So that leaves us with Blue Box, another sports anime this season, which is a romantic shonen comedy about a badminton player and a basketball player. And it's a weekly Shonen Jump series, which is one of the few that I have actually been reading every week since it started, which was like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. So one of the longer ones at this point. And yeah, it is a very cute romance. If you are into sports, it also spends a decent amount of its run just on sports games. And it's a definitely solid adaptation so far, so good times all around. Not the most groundbreaking or revolutionary plot in any way, but it does what it does pretty well, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it was recommended to me by the same friend I saw Dan to Dan with, that he said it was pretty wholesome.
Yeah.
The only thing that could deter me from that is I'm relatively picky on like high school romancy shows as they're depicted in anime, as I've made clear on several different occasions. But the sports angle definitely helps. So not out of once Uzumaki's done, maybe I'll pick that up since we only have 2 more episodes of that.
Right.
And I can scoop that up and then get caught up. So that's good to know that it is good and not just my friend hyping me up for some bullshit.
Yep. Not as good as Dawn to Dawn or anything like that, but if you know what you're getting into, it should be a good time.
All right, cool. Anything else you got going on?
Monogatari's still going, still super good. ReZero, the second episode aired today, so I haven't watched it yet. But the first episode was feature length, as is also popular to do these days. And that is a series that I've also read, not like up to date with Japan, or probably even with the US release at this point, but I have read many of the light novels well past where the anime is at, and probably will be for the next season or two. So I knew all of this material is getting real good at this point, and when I heard that it was going to be an hour-and-a-half episode, I kind of knew exactly where it was going to end, and I was very excited for that, and that is exactly where it ended, and it was executed very well. So, incredible first episode of that season. Looking forward to seeing how they continue this arc and the next. Bleach is also back, 1,000 Year Blood War Part 3. Always very good. I don't know that it's going to reach the heights of the first core again, because the material itself, got a little shaky after that point. So we'll see if that can pull together something really amazing again. But already, certainly the beautiful, kind of perfectly polished adaptation that we got from the first round and the second. Natsume, you're watching that, Kate, right? Got any thoughts
Natsume.
on season 7?
After 7 years, Natsume is back, baby.
God, it's been 7 since season 6. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I had to look it up, and I'm like, because I went looking, and I'm like, let me go into my files and see if I reviewed the last season. I'm like, yes, I did. And then I looked at the date, and I'm like, oh dear God.
Yeah, they always do like 2 seasons at a time, and then 100 years later, we get another 2.
Yeah. But it's the same crew. It looks exactly the same. It sounds exactly the same. It's just like, yep, didn't miss a beat. We're back, baby.
Yep.
And it's like, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let this get to my emotional level. The little bird figurine wants to go home. I'm like, I'm over here bawling. I'm like, it's so sad, God. More things change, the more Natsume stays the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the previous couple seasons, 5 and 6, they switched studios technically, but it was one of those cases where it's like, this studio split off of the previous one, and also the director changed, so, there was definitely some potential for things to be different at that point. But since they were able to keep that relatively consistent, we're kind of golden. We're just cruising.
Yeah. It's the same. It's essentially the same crew as worked on it 7 years ago. So
yeah,
it's amazingly consistent.
Yeah, considering like when did the first one start? That must have been what, like 17 years ago.
I think it was still like 3x4.
Yeah, it could have been back then.
So,
that was right on the line there. Yeah, it is 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was probably 16:9 by then, but it was definitely like right at the beginning of all new TV anime was native HD 16:9 digital. So it just got under the wire there for making it so it could actually be consistent throughout. Like, yeah, to put it in perspective, again, we've rebooted Spice and Wolf, which started at the same time as Natsume.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh yeah, it looks like it might have been 16:9. Very, very early 16:9. If this is from...
But by like, I mean, from 2002 to 2006, most things started moving over.
Yeah.
By 2008, yeah,
that nebulous...
only legacy stuff would still be 4.3.
Yeah, it's that nebulous, like, where did this fall in the digital anime spectrum of how old is this, kind of thing.
Yep, just new enough to be consistent throughout, which is always good.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. The Rurouni Kenshin reboot is still kind of mediocre, which is great if you don't want to engage in that property anymore.
Thank God.
It makes life that much simpler.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then I think if that covers most everything we got, we can wrap things up for the evening.
Yeah, let's come up with some recommendations. It has been a few months. Let me find some stuff.
Tasty, right? Oh, I had a good idea. Oh, I know what I'm going to recommend. Okay, yeah.
I got one right off the dome, but Kate, you can go first.
I'll go first. Legend of Vox Machina season 3 started last week with 3 episodes. So yeah, go watch that. That's on Amazon Prime. That is some fun shit. If you like fantasy nonsense. There was a really steamy sex scene, and I was not expecting. I thought they were gonna cut away. They did not cut away. So, which then you start doing like mental gymnastics of this show's producer and the writer of this episode is the husband of Laura, who is having virtual sex with one of their good close friends, and this got weird. This got weird.
I mean, I don't think they're together anymore, but like, Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh, yeah.
Helena Bonham Carter. How he would just, have her fucking some actor in every movie. Well, every movie that wasn't for kids, I guess. So a lot of people are like that.
So I don't know, but it's good. It remains good. Probably Lance Reddick's final performance, so there's that.
He's gonna be in the new John Wick spinoff next year.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Almost final performance.
Yeah.
One of them anyway. Humorous.
Not humorous. Not very humorous.
Post death appearance. Because I cannot pronounce that word. Hey, I found a word I can't pronounce this episode.
Hey, there we go.
That's how you
back
know
in the swing of things.
Yep. Yep, that's why AI will never be able to produce me. They'll never be able to figure out how I fuck up words. Alright, next recommendation.
Yep, the one that I got is the new Dragon Ball fucking Spark and Zero game rules. It's
really
new. Yeah, it's like a Budokai-esque fighting game. It's got 182 characters.
Jesus.
There's so many like individually unique interactions between them that they've very painstakingly like animated. like Krillin and 18 will talk to each other in, unique ways depending on if they're on the same team or opponents against each other, or their lobby animation is like 18 calling Krillin and then Krillin picking up the phone and freaking out about it. And all sorts of like just really like painstakingly and lovingly made little Easter eggs and things. You can make a team that's all of the Goku variants and not like Goku Black, but like Turles and Bardock, and they all just remark about how weird it is that they look so similar.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like I think Goku starts and says, "I didn't know there were this many copies of me," and then they all just comment about how freaked out they are. But there's one where it's all of the small Gokus too, and then Goten, and then Goten says, "I don't think I'm supposed to be here." So just a lot of really fun things, and plus, from what I can see, like I've only played a demo of it a little bit, so I haven't really had a chance to like dig in. But the fighting itself is surprisingly solid, given the insane roster of characters too, and you get them all like right off the bat. Or at least the vast majority. This isn't like you get 20, and then through various DLC packs, you can get up to 182. They just stuffed them all in there.
Wow.
Like immediately. So that's also really cool too. So I would, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, especially like the Budokai Tenkaichi style game, since we haven't had one like that in a while, Sparking Zero is really gonna scratch that itch for you pretty good.
And, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, there will be a brand new Dragon Ball anime in a few days. So
oh yeah,
Daima. This is
Daima.
out. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's about all I had. So, Kestrel, on you.
All right, so for some recent-ish home video releases, we are all caught up with JoJo. The entire original universe of that is out on Blu-ray, so they can go ahead and announce Steel Ball Run at some point.
Any day now, any day.
I've been seeing rumors that it's going to happen in 2026, so we'll see about that. I know the big worry about that is all the horses, because that's really hard to animate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't talk about The Elusive Samurai much, that aired last season, but it's like this incredibly well animated 2D series, except literally any time a horse is on screen, then they're just like Uzumaki episode 2 CG blobs just like bouncing around.
Oof.
I'm like, oh god. So yeah, good luck with that, David production. Also, Mushoku Tensei Season 2, the first part of that is out on Blu-ray. GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka, is out on Blu-ray. It is SD-BD, unfortunately, but still some marginal improvements over the DVD. And The Eminence in Shadow Season 2, also out on Blu-ray. And then for some more recent stuff, I guess this is in the next few days. We're getting Vinland Saga Season 2 Part 2. Apparently, Vinland Saga did not do well enough because Season 2 did not get any special editions at all, which is very worrying because the producers of that show said that its further success was basically entirely on the shoulders of the Western audience. Ooh. So it doesn't bode well for more Vinland Saga anime. But you can grab that on Blu-ray anyway, show your support where you can. And, since I just mentioned that Bleach 1,000 Year Blood War Part 3 just started, Part 2 will be out on Blu-ray in a few weeks as well. For some other stuff, I wish I could tell you to go watch Blue Lock in theaters, but it just ended its very brief theatrical run. So look out for that when it comes to Blu-ray and maybe streaming someday. Incredible film, highly recommended. For something you can still watch in theaters that is not anime related but is animated, The Wild Robot is the new DreamWorks movie, and it is very gorgeous and heartfelt and just very polished and lovingly executed in every way. So highly recommend that movie. And for TV series, if you're into the 2022 Batman movie at all, there's a spin-off of that called The Penguin that is airing on Max every Sunday as well. So yeah, that is really good. I think it is even much better than that Batman movie ever was. So highly recommend that. It kind of assumes you know what happens in the movie, but as long as you have some base understanding of the Batman universe, and even then, it's like, it's just criminals. It's just the Sopranos in Gotham. Like, there's nothing supernatural about it. There's nothing fantastical. There's nothing superhero-y. It's just criminals being criminals. So yeah, very, very good. Colin Farrell's transformation is absolutely unbelievable every time.
And he hates it.
Does he?
Yeah, he's mentioned that he hated being in that suit all the time.
I don't doubt it. It looks awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are my immediate recommendations as of right now.
Nice. Well, then I think we can finish out the evening by letting everyone know where they can find us, and then doing a little signing out.
Yeah, so you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. You can probably just put one of our reviews into Notebook LM and not have to listen to us stumble over our words. That's probably a better idea at this point. But if you're into our warts and all production here, you can get us on your favorite podcatcher. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or anything that sources from that. YouTube Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Alexa, Facebook, all those places. Fandompost.com as well. You can just find us on there. And find us on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Twitter's still alive. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe one day we'll move off.
I'm not on there anymore.
Yeah. But still seems to kind of be the central place, so whatever. Yeah, find us on there. If you don't want to use social media, probably smart. You can get in contact with us, fandompostradio@gmail.com. Handle is just Fandom Post Radio, wherever we appear. So, yeah, get in contact with us, follow us, share our stuff, all that. You can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma. I've got some writings on the Fandom Post of interest. I reviewed Oshinoko last season. That just wrapped up. I have started reviewing Dawn to Dawn this season. I did an interview with the director, writer, character designer, studio head, pretty much every role of Look Back, Kiyotaka Oshiyama, at AX, and finally got it approved 3 months later, just in time for the movie to be out here. So go check that out. Most importantly, though, I just published a 5,000-word review of Frieren on its 1-year anniversary. So check that out. It is by far the most I've ever put into a piece of writing, so please share it as much as you can.
You can find me on fandompost.com and on Blue Sky at Sonic Bug. That is where I am on the internet. Oh god, my cat is throwing shit off my shelf upstairs and onto my floor.
Awesome. As cats are wont to do.
Means it's time for me to go.
Alright, well, you can find me here, as usual, when hopefully I'm not having as many computer-based problems. But, hopefully everyone has found a couple shows that they can watch this season that'll bring them some enjoyment. And, yeah, we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.